We think they'll always be there when they're called to action. We think they're superheroes that will always be around. But really, that's not the case anymore. In fact, we're just like you. We're only human. Volunteer firefighters are one of America's brave and heroic first responders. They will leave birthday parties, church, and family gatherings to save those they've never met before, and without pay as well. They are a major part of America, as 82% of fire departments are volunteer, and 67% of firefighters are volunteer. But the nation is facing a crisis, a shortage of volunteers. So, how did we get here? How does this affect me? How does it affect you? How do we fix it? Well, let's start off with an introduction. Hi, my name is Remington Yates. I am in my fourth year as a volunteer firefighter here at my local fire department. I began studying this subject on the volunteer fire shortage about a couple months within me joining the fire department. And the fact that it's not talked about as much as it is and not seen as the national crisis that it should be, I think it's time somebody finally brought it up to everybody and pointed out what could happen if we don't fix this. So let's take a journey and to see how we got here, how we can fix it, and what would the long-term effects be if we don't fix it. Our research begins with the National Fire Protection Association, or the NFPA, as every year they release the U.S. Fire Department profile, which they give estimates of how many firefighters are in the nation, how many are career, how many are volunteer. And in their key findings, in the most recent one, they have shown that the volunteer fire numbers have been steadily declining. It is very scary to see this. The key thing that I found in the number of volunteers correlates with the rural population, which makes sense since the majority of volunteer fire departments are in heavily rural areas of farmlands and such. The NFPA began its reports in the 1980s. During the 1980s, the rural farm crisis of the 1980s was going on. This would cause Jimmy Carter to lose his re-election and would have Ronald Reagan become the next president of the United States. Rural farmers would have massive debt loads, leaving the banks to claim their property. Farmers would lose their properties left and right, and so the rural population would take a heavy hit, and so would the volunteer fire departments.
So as you can see from the National Fire Protection Association's profile from 2019 released in 2021, we started in 1986 with 808,200 volunteers. This number would grow, then decrease, and it keeps decreasing, and it kind of just fluctuates throughout the 90s. And then it's starting to kind of steadily decrease once again. And then we hit 2000, and then we go to 2001. It goes up by 10,000 here, as you can see. Then we keep going. It keeps going up. It goes back down in 2004, but goes back up. And then in 2008, we would hit the highest in the 2000s of 827,150 volunteer firefighters. Then we would go down. It would decrease again, once again. It'd go back up, down, up again, and then we hit 814,850 in 2015. After 2015, it would decrease to 729,000 volunteers, and in 2017, the lowest recorded volunteer firefighters of 682,600 was recorded. After 2017, it would go back up over 700,000, and it would go down once again in 2019 at 722,000 volunteers. But not only do we have to worry about the number of volunteers, another problem would come up in the same NFPA report. The volunteers are not getting younger. In this NFPA profile here, age profile of firefighters by size community, firefighters in mostly volunteer departments in the under 2,500 of population, firefighters under the age of 30 make up only 23% of the volunteers, whereas percent of firefighters age 50 and up are 32%. 30 through 39 are 24%, and firefighters 40 and 49 through 49 are only 21%. So how can this affect the nation? Well, since most volunteer fire departments are in rural areas, they protect crops and farmers' property, they go to your table. Majority give fire and rescue, which can involve vehicle extrication and medical. They protect a portion of America's economy and supply, as majority of small businesses, trucking companies, and farmers are in rural America. So now the question is, how do we fix this?
One of the ways I see us fixing this problem we have in a nation is if you're willing to join your local volunteer fire department, put in the hours, do the training. I've done it for 4 years so far. I went in knowing absolutely nothing and yet have learned so much in only 4 years. So really, if you are willing to, definitely do it. Find your local volunteer fire chief, get a hold of him and ask him how you can help.